What's up YouTube? Welcome back to Kareem and My Coffee. Thanks for joining me today. I've been thinking winter's coming and I've been home for about a year now, back in the US. And this trip that I took before I returned home came to mind. I used to live in Russia, and before I left, I decided that I needed to do one kind of big trip. In the end, I chose to go up to the polar circle to a small city called Murmansk. My friend Irina and Eric, we all booked the flight together to fly further north in Russia to Murmansk. If you can find people like that who are willing to just drop and go when they have the opportunity to see something new, to travel somewhere, don't let them go. They're great people. Anyway, off to Murmansk we go. Further north of Murmansk is a very small town called Teriberka. If you want to know what the ends of the earth look like, you have to travel to Teriberka or as far north as possible. To get to Teriberka, you have to either take a bus, which runs, I believe, twice a week there and back, or you can hire a taxi, or you can take a trip or tour like we did with a guide. Of course, further up north, there's obviously a lot of snow, and this snow can become incredibly high, blocking the roads completely. And if you go to Teriberka and it snows, you're stuck there. You're not leaving. But luckily, there are some hostels, maybe one or two, and maybe a small hotel, maybe a motel you can stay at. So we get up in the morning and the guy meets us at our Airbnb. We take off, we're heading down. You leave Murmansk and you're just going off to Teriberka, and there are trees just everywhere. But the further you go, the less trees you see, until eventually there are no trees at all. And you reach a point where it's just this frozen tundra, and it was beautiful. We got out the car to just take a break, stretch our legs, because it's a 2-hour drive there. You just look up and you see just ice and snow and just the wind. I mean, listen to this wind. Needless to say, it was cold, but it was magical. Magical. If you look here, we have these small rocks that people have just piled on top of each other. And there's a good reason for this. There's this superstition that if the structure manages to stand for an entire year, you will find your true love, or you will experience love, or something about love. I think it's you will experience true love. Anyway, we get back in the car. We continue on our journey. When you finally reach Teriberka, you have two paths. You can go straight, or you can make a right. And the right leads you to where the hostel is, in like a very, very small town. When you go straight, one of the most eerie things you see is a ship graveyard. Now on the right, as you're driving along the street, you see these old wooden abandoned ships. And that's because Teriberka used to be a fishing town. And I believe once Russia started producing more oil and technology advanced, these fishing boats were no longer needed. And those fishermen were out of a job. And so they just left their boats there, and they're there, they're just floating in the water, they can't go anywhere, and they're just completely destroyed. When you go on the boat and you look around, you just have this lake leading out to the Arctic, and you see the small town in the back, and then you have these giant snow hills behind you. Anyway, as we continue, we eventually come to a path that's off-road, and we have to stop our car because vehicles can no longer go down this path apparently unless you're authorized. So we continue our journey. I didn't really know where we were going, and I didn't really want to ask because I like being surprised. However, there was a major issue here. It was getting dark. Now, our guide is very experienced. He says he makes this trip several times a week maybe. So there wasn't too much to worry about. But imagine you're up north. When the sun starts to go down, it gets colder. When it gets colder, all that moisture turns to ice. So this path we were walking on to get to our final destination slowly started becoming ice. And it became more and more dangerous as we went. And here you pass a beach. And this beach isn't sand, it's all rocks. But all the rocks are shaped like an oval, or they're circular, like dragon eggs. And that is what this beach is called. Dragon Egg Beach. Now how did they get there? Most likely glaciers that came through and dropped them as they melted. But the whole beach is just covered with these crazy looking eggs. Sorry, with these crazy looking rocks. And you just walk along. So we slowly start climbing this hill, carefully, trying not to fall, and we make it to the top. When you get there, just past the hill is a big lake. But this wasn't what we wanted to see. What we were going for was beyond the lake. It was much better. However, the only thing was, in order to get there, you had to go downhill now. So before I even made a move, I'm just looking at people walk, slip, slide, walk, slip, slide, all of them going down this hill, but first. We were a bit more careful than that. We tried to find the best path where there was still some snow left, so we had some stability. We make it down the hill, and what we saw was amazing. Now let me tell you something. When I travel, I don't want anyone to show me anything about where I'm going to go and what I'm going to see. To me, that is a spoiler. You do not want someone spoiling the end of a movie for you. So I don't want you spoiling the end of the journey for me. I don't use Google to look at anything. I don't look at any images. I like to be surprised. If I'm disappointed, well, I'm disappointed. If I'm excited and amazed and in awe, then it was worth it. And this is how I was when we arrived at our destination. Again, I didn't know where we were going, what we were going to see. We approached this cliff, and on either side we have the cliff walls, and under us was a waterfall, a frozen waterfall at that. Now, I didn't expect to see that, but I arrived and I was like, this is amazing. And what was even better, you had the moon, this big moon in the background, bright as the sun. I mean, it was downright gorgeous. And at that moment, I knew what we did was completely worth it. This trip was amazing. And I recommend anyone, if you're brave enough or adventurous enough to travel not only to Russia, but to the north of Russia in the winter, you have to go to Teriberka. Now, the hard part. Going back. And everything is frozen. Every single step was meticulously planned to make sure we don't fall. We do eventually make it back to the car, and we head home. We're in the middle of nowhere, so the drive back had no street lights, and you look out your window, what do you see? Nothing. If you are adventurous and not afraid of a little snow, then I recommend you going to Teriberka at least once in your life. It's just this kind of desolate area of Russia. I mean, there are probably many areas like this, but this is where I went. While you're there, you really understand what it's like to be alone, to be isolated from everything. It's a real settling but unsettling feeling. You have this beautiful frozen tundra, the Arctic Ocean there. But when you look around, there's just no one. There's not much life. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I haven't really talked much about Russia. My original videos were about Russia, but I realized that the way I created them wasn't really, I guess, that interesting. And I decided to, take a different approach. If you enjoyed my video, please hit that like and subscribe button to stay up to date with all my travel videos and stories. So once again, everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you giving me your time. So, as always, I'll see you in the next one.